Should we hear sound?
No sound, Zach. Zach, we have no sound again?
No sound. Or do we do it again?
GLOBEBUSTERS! 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 If there ain't no curve, there ain't no ball. The globe religion about to fall. We're gonna open your eyes so you can see who you gonna call if you wanna be free. GLOBEBUSTERS! 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 Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Yeah! GLOBEBUSTERS! GLOBEBUSTERS! GLOBEBUSTERS!
And welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS. We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to GLOBEBUSTERS Tech. I am your host, Zach Good Times for All, and today's show we will be covering gyroscopes. I love this topic. This was one of the things that really put the nail in the coffin for me as far as are we moving? Is there anything going on? Is the Earth even a sphere? Early on, I had a lot of questions that I didn't know the answers to. We see too far wasn't a good enough answer for me, as in the realm of physics, because I didn't know enough about optics back then. And then once the gyroscope, I learned about that, it really cemented the whole idea of this not being a spinning ball floating through space, twirling around and this and that. I mean, the gyroscope really just nailed that home for me. So today we're going to go over what a gyroscope is, the different types of gyroscopes, and some of the early FE content creators that did some amazing work on gyroscopes. But before we do that, we're going to say hello to the panel. And starting off first, we're going to say hello to Mrs. Cami Nodell. Cami, how are you today?
Oh, doing good. I hope I'm off of my mute and that. Thanks for everybody's patience with the sound and us doing the setup. For those new to the show, you'll see this is not your Sunday GLOBEBUSTERS show. This is a tech show that's a dive in deep on different topics, and our main goal is to learn. And so I always learn something new with this. It's one of my favorite topics of all times. We've done a lot of work with gyroscopes, a lot of hands-on work, a lot of study, and I'm still fascinated. They're like magic. I know that I had a child's toy, a gyroscope, and played for hours and was fascinated with it, and the magic's still not lost on me. So welcome everybody to tonight's show. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. All right, next up, we have Miss Karen B. Karen, how are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy to be here.
Wunderbar. How is, well, we can bring it up right now, I guess. Flattoberfest 2023 in fabulous Las Vegas.
Yeah, baby. Las Vegas, Nevada. We're having Flattoberfest 2023 in Las Vegas on the West Coast, and we're international this year. We got speakers from the UK and Canada and attendees from all over. I've got attendees coming from Australia, UK, Netherlands. So you guys, a truly international Flat Earth conference this year. I am
Nice.
super excited.
Heck yeah. So if you didn't know, you can get your tickets at flatearthfestivals.com, and they are going quickly. 100% we'll still have tickets at the door?
I'm not 100% that we'll have tickets at the door, to be honest
Wow.
with you. I'm not 100%. About a quarter of the tickets have sold at this point, which is the most that have sold this far before the event of any event. So I'm just telling you. And
No guarantees this year, like
no
the
guarantees
last few
this year.
years.
No guarantees this year. As we get closer to the event, depending on how things go, I mean, of course, I will keep everybody updated and we'll let you know. But if you really want to be guaranteed a spot inside, you need to get a ticket
Yeah.
ASAP.
ASAP. That's some good advice. Well, I will be there. I cannot wait. Um, yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right. Next up, we have Mr. Kyle Adams. Kyle, how are you doing this week, sir?
Doing really well. Got my wife her ticket for Flatoberfest. We'll both be there, and I am just, super excited about this. I think we're gonna set a record for sure. So it's gonna be part of history. So yeah, I don't want to miss out on that.
I mean, we're 8 years deep in the Flat Earth Awakening. 8 years. Okay.
Crazy.
And it's the first one on the West Coast, and we've got a lot of very well-known people on our side at this point. I'm telling you. That's all I got to say.
This is gonna be totally sold out. I'm expecting really great things this year. So.
Yeah, can't wait. And last but not least, we have Skylar from Troubling Tribune Channel. Skylar, how are we doing today, sir?
Doing fantastic. Another day in paradise and another great topic for the GLOBEBUSTERS Tech Show, man. I'm excited to dive right in and super excited for everybody going to the Flattoberfest, man. For a side that takes absolutely no prisoners, right? We just absolutely have demolished the entire mainstream paradigm by this point, and now we're kind of just in the fine-tuning phases, which is really cool. So looking forward to the show.
Awesome. Well, I have a question for the two other gentlemen on the panel. I know the ladies have held a gyroscope, a super precision gyroscope, and actually felt the force that it creates. It's wild. It's my favorite thing from all the different Flatoberfest or solar returns that Cammie and I did demonstrations at. This was my favorite thing to hand to people and then watch their eyes light up like a child, because it just dumbfounds them how strong this force that this little spinning wheel creates and fights you. Yeah, it's amazing. Children from 6 to 96, their eyes just brighten up and they're like, whoa, this is really. Even my favorite are the people that are not there like on their own. They were dragged here, and this is just a stupid flat earth thing and blah blah blah, and they're walking around with this look on their face like they're just smarter than everybody and too cool for school. And then I explain the gyroscope and I hand it to them, and they, whoa, yeah, it gets everybody. So it's one of my favorite toys to share with people. But Kyle, have you ever held a super precision gyroscope that's creating that force?
I've never held like one of the super precision ones. I just got this little toy here, and that's about as far as I've gotten, really.
They do. I mean, will that create when you get it going nice and quick? Do you feel?
Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel the movement, and this is just like one of the cheap ones. But yeah, I can definitely feel it trying to like rotate it around and things like that, and just like it's a different experience for sure.
I think I'm gonna bring the gyroscope just cause, and let people play with it and feel it. It's awesome. For those who haven't felt it, I want Kyle to feel it. Yeah. And Skylar, how about you? Have you ever held one of those, the super precision ones?
So I've not ever held one of the heavy duty gyroscopes, but I have had my fair share of experience with fidget spinners, right? And when you're trying to break the world record of spinning it the fastest that it could go, you can feel the force, right? The crazy pull change of vector, if you will, just from spinning that thing. So I can only imagine when you get something that's really high precision, you can really rev that thing up, maybe even with a motor, what kind of forces that would create.
Yeah, it's by far my favorite. Karen, how was your first time? What did it do to you when you first grabbed a gyroscope?
It just made me think, wow, if the earth was spinning and moving, we would really feel it. That's, I mean, that's the correlation I made because it's spinning, it's moving, and you feel the resistance. And I just really thought, wow, if we were on something that moved in a similar fashion, we would feel this.
Yeah.
This would make a difference, you know, and it just doesn't. We don't feel that. So that was one of my things. I don't know if that's the right correlation to make or whatnot, but that's what I thought.
And how about you, Cami? What was your first interaction with the gyroscope? Was it the one that you have now, or have you ever held the gyroscope before that?
I've held gyroscopes before that. I'm fairly nerdy, so I like played with them even before. And you saw at the house even before we ordered the super precision. You saw some of this string gyroscopes. Those were old, the metal ones that were strings. So I've definitely done that. A lot of my stuff with the gyroscopes is my fascination with spin in general and how when you spin something, it seems to remove weight from it or gravity. It travels longer. It does the different things, tops, all the different toys like that that you could spin up and they would rotate. There's something really magical about that that, again, I want to discuss more and get into it. But the gyroscope especially is, again, precision. It's taking it on a gimbaled axis and adding precision and that to it so you get the best of the best. And I think, again, anytime you're creating that, you're creating a vortex, Karen, you're absolutely right as far as the gyro and thinking about the spin and the way that it affects us. The rim velocity alone at 1,000 miles an hour on rim velocity, you get into engineering and the force that you get with it. Again, your centrifugal and you're creating a vortex is a lot different than your linear motion. So one of my favorite things is people say that like we're moving so slowly and we're moving so constantly, you don't feel the motion. But of course you do. You don't feel the motion in a straight line in physics when you're holding it, like when you're riding in a car or a plane. But you put a plane and you turn, you feel the turn. And as soon as you take it out of a linear motion, you do feel it. Your vestibular, your system is set up for it. And you put it into a centrifugal, and all kinds of stuff starts happening as far as the forces that you feel. So you're right, and the gyro is going to demonstrate them all.
Absolutely. So I was always taught that Foucault created the gyroscope or came up with the gyroscope. And what I found was he really just gave it the name gyroscope. There was already this phenomena that had been known about. Um, According to his story now, we have to, So John Smeaton and his whirling speculum. That's what the gyroscope was called before it was a gyroscope, and it was used out at sea. He would start
That's a way better name, I'll just say.
the whirling speculum, yeah. Yeah, and it's a precursor to the modern gyroscope, which influences. Now, this guy, I believe, invented the sextant as well, or something to do with the sextant, the reflecting mirrors, maybe, or something. He did something with the sextant right before he came up with this one. He was a civil engineer, blah, 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 blah. Okay. We have a ship at sea, yeah. So he figured out that people kept getting lost at sea and this and that because while they're trying to find the horizon to line up, and take their angle measurements, they had all different ways of doing it, even before the sextant. They used to take a little pool of mercury with them and they would put it down in front of the sun and then measure the distance off of this little pool, and somehow that gave them an angle, this and that, yada yada yada. But it didn't work because at sea, you're moving around. When we have liquid moving around at sea, it's not going to sit nice and level for you. It's going to be all over the place. So he came up with the whirling speculum, he called it. And you spin it up real fast at while the sea's nice and calm and the ship's at rest. And then when you are out at sea off in a thing, and you can't see the horizon, it's a cloudy day or this and that, you can measure along your whirling speculum that you have going, kind of like a gyroscope, to find your horizon line. Yeah. It says George Adams. Okay, early artificial. Yeah, here it is. George Adams came up with the sextant to measure the angle between the sun and its image on a reflective Mercury surface. And then this guy came up with the whirling speculum, which is now known as the gyroscope. Now, I didn't know that. That was a big eye opener to me.
Yeah, that's news to me too. I've never heard of that before. That's interesting though.
And here is Cammie and I. What was this? 2019 FEIC. I'm just going to play a short part of this video. This is part of Cammie and I's demonstration on our very first How the World Works. And here I talk about the gyroscope and a magnet and their interactions. We're not going to get too much into that today. It is a very neat phenomena, but we're going to play out the part that has to do with the gyroscope. So here we go.
The gyroscope and the magnet. In this next segment, we will be taking a look at the forces created by gyroscopes and magnets, how they are applied to our devices, and finally, how they interact with each other. The gyroscope, invented in 1743 by John Searson, was first called the whirling speculum and was used to identify the horizon in bad weather. Today they are used by many without us even knowing it. Gyroscopes are used for navigation tools for aircrafts and ships, sensors in your cell phones and watches, all the way down to a child's toy you yourself may have had at one time. The special property they possess is that once spinning fast enough, the gyroscope will obtain its rigidity in space. This simply means that no matter which way you tilt or rotate its mount, the gyroscope will be unaffected and hold its position in space. It has been claimed that the mechanical gyroscope can detect the motion of the Earth using this phenomena, but many failures to do so have been documented by academia and truth seekers alike. In a version of Popular Astronomy from 1922, we found this by M.C. Mott-Smith. One must often wonder whether the authors of these texts really ever performed the experiments they describe. Where the divergency between theory and fact is so great, as in the case of the gyroscope, it certainly should not be dismissed with a vague remark or two about friction. While the theorist may care little about it, the practical man naturally wants to know why the actual gyroscope behaves as it does. The more sensitive fiber optic and ring laser gyros do detect a motion, but we are not certain what causes this phenomenon. The magnet. Like electricity, magnetism.
Okay. So that was kind of Cammie and I's very first video on having anything to do with gyroscopes. Now, I know we really didn't cover the gyroscope in depth and how, well, I guess it kind of was just a brief summary of all the different things that they're used for today. Now, why, in your opinion, do you think Foucault even claimed that the gyroscope was going to process? Why would they even bring this to light? I mean, do you think it was someone else that said, hey, why doesn't a gyroscope process? And then, because this just sounds like shooting yourself in the foot right here. You're going to make an instrument that measures movement to measure the movement of the Earth. Do you think Foucault believed that the Earth was moving in a ball? Kyle, what do you think?
I'm kind of wondering about, like, if he ever really questioned those kinds of things back then. If he was under the whole questioning the shape of the Earth kind of a mindset. If he was just saying, "Oh well, look at this," and that was it.
Well,
I
he
would
actually,
say that definitely, I'm sorry, Zach, to interrupt, but I would have to say that most definitely they were in the question because it was not until the 20th century that everybody accepted the globe as as a mass, as an accepted idea. Up until then, even in the early 20th century, it was being disputed as being true. So I'd have to say definitely that during Foucault's time that was being disputed.
yeah, he
That's just
did
my
a
opinion.
public display to show that it was, processing supposedly. And even though it didn't move, he said it processed astronomically or something like that. It moved compared to the star or something like that. Yeah, it was weird.
So we've got the gyroscope, and we're pointing to Foucault, and then there are also a lot of people out there like to point to Foucault for the pendulum, and that's been debunked in the past. And I don't know if that's really kind of a similar concept to this or not. I'm not really entirely sure.
The way that I see it, just to throw my 2 cents in, is that it's probably very similar as it is today. That whole idea of nothing new under the sun, and that even though the shape is clearly in dispute, even today, right? The flat Earth movement is going huge, right? But back in the day, right before they had the NASA and all this other sophisticated propaganda in place, I definitely feel like it was still in dispute. And um, sorry, my son just walked in the room trying to throw my train of thought off. But I definitely feel like it was still in dispute. But the point of it was that I feel like the evidence is looked through a lens, depending on who's conducting the experiment, and they're putting a heavy bias on it when it comes from the heliocentric side.
No, I agree with that 100%. That would be stated almost exactly what I would say. That yeah, it was definitely being disputed, and I think that the whole idea of again the top and the gyroscope and the rigidity it holds and the properties of it in itself have again qualities of wonder, and they're trying to tie up how that's happening with the Earth. I mean, I think some of it could be that they're trying to explain again tying in how does the gyroscope do what it does, how does it stay the way it does in space, how does it hold its rigidity, how do tops again spin and not seem to be affected by it. I think they were looking at the whole thing and trying to actually tie it together with because they're trying to hard at the same time too to prove that the Earth is moving. I mean, their arguments is that we're on a spinning ball that nobody can measure, and there are no measurements or anything that you can do. They're trying to, I think they're reaching for it, just like with Hubble, and he was reaching for redshift as Doppler. I mean, I think they were reaching for anything to prove their bias. And this one, I think it did shoot him in the foot a lot, but yeah, it would have been under heavy debate. And
Now,
I
what
need to
I'm
let my
showing in the
dog back
background
in.
is Rob Durham's channel. This gentleman did so many demonstrations and made observations using a bunch of different types of gyro. It wasn't just a gyroscope. He used the gyro compass up here. He went and got an artificial horizon out of a plane and was using that and testing it and experimenting with it. Yeah, it was this video right here, 1 hour and 45 minutes, 6 years ago, Flat Earth and the Gyro Revisited. I had just gotten my gyroscope like 3 days before this video came out, and I was all excited because I was getting ready to start making all kinds of cool videos on the gyroscope and this and that and then Rob put out this and just like covered every square inch of the gyroscope. Hour 45 minutes long. It's jam packed with nothing but awesome gyroscope demonstrations, observations. Yeah, this is probably the creme de la creme of gyroscope research right here.
You still should have done it, Zach. You know how the mainstream news just does the same story over and over and over again until everybody's like, "Hey, did you hear about that thing on the news?"
I
That
agree. I have to agree. Like I in the beginning was like, do I need to repeat myself? Like I already said that. People are going to be like, you just keep saying the same thing over and over. But the fact of the matter is that people don't catch everything that you say every time, and the repetition people need that repetition. They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
The masses, just people in general, need that repetition. And it's not necessarily because they're dumb. It's just because there's so much noise going on. I think that it just does good to just keep saying these things over and over. And as much as I hate repeating myself, I hate it. Like, I don't like listening to people who repeat themselves, but we have to realize that in this time that not everybody is seeing everything all at the same point, and we do need to keep saying these basic things over and over again and reiterating them, and just keep pushing it into the ether until it just becomes basic knowledge.
I've had several people actually come to me since starting this journey and say that, I've been looking at this stuff. I've been a Glober up until recently. I've been looking at this stuff, and just the way that you've said this has really put it into perspective for me in a way that I can understand. So you never know when that's going to be you, right? So definitely reiterate it, and you never know who it's going to resonate with.
Yeah, the other part of that too is, like, I listen to people that I may not necessarily understand the first time around, but through repetition, if I listen to that message over and over, I begin to understand it. So don't worry about repetition. That's what I would say to anybody who does content. Just don't worry about repetition, as long as the points are poignant and they are relevant, and they mean something and they're good points. Just keep saying it. Go for it.
And the more times you go over it, the more you learn about it. Like, different things stand out to you. It's just kind of like reading scriptures. Like, you read the Bible like 10 times and you're still learning new things. It's kind of, don't be afraid of it.
I was
Or
enjoying
you might even think of a different way to explain something. You might think of a new analogy, and that's going to trigger something in a new listener. So just in general, I would say don't worry about repetition.
that observation that you just had on the screen with the two gyroscopes going at it. Were they actually bumping into each other, or was I seeing that right when they were actually stopping before hitting and bouncing off of something else? Like, I can't really tell.
I think they are hidden.
Okay. That'd be nuts.
Yeah, there is something very interesting about spinning, at least in a liquid, I know. The vortexes. Bob had showed me this one video. I think it was a physics, or no, what's her name? Fractal Woman. And she was showing vortexes in water. If they're both spinning the same direction, they push apart. But if they're spinning in opposite directions, they pull closer towards each other. That's a real neat one. We're going to have to cover that one in
Wait a second.
fluid dynamics.
So that's probably, I don't know. I'm jumping the gun there, but I always think of like magnetism and stuff and try to work it into toroidal and fluid mechanics. And
Yeah, she was explaining magnetism using it. So yeah,
She was
you're
explaining
right
how
on
it
the
works
head.
exactly how it looks the same, which it would in fluid dynamics. And again, we're just talking wave theory or wave dynamics
we're just
the whole way through. Yeah.
constantly dumping on the theory of atomism.
Mm-hmm.
Now he has this little piece of putty right here, weighting it down. I heard so many people had issues with getting their gyroscope weighted correctly. See, there's two holes drilled in over here, and they're not over here. So your gyroscope is going to want to drift just naturally. But it's the opposite direction that it should be drifting if it were the Earth rotation. The thing is, each one of these gyroscopes comes with this little screw, and it's just a little tab or a little cylinder looking thing about yay big, and it screws right into there and sets your weight perfectly. So you don't have to use things like the putty here. If you plan on buying one of these, gyroscope.com is where I got mine. It's a company out of England.
Can I
And
just point something out real quick, Zach, that I'm
absolutely.
noticing by looking at this picture right here? Okay, so this gyroscope, it's sitting on like a tripod. Like, there's 3 points that it's sitting on, right?
Mhm.
It's on the tabletop. But let me just, and I don't know what stand that is, or if it's made a specific way for a specific reason. But let me just relate this right here to the golden ratio, because I'm looking at the degrees around the circle there. When you split a circle up into the golden ratio, anybody can look this up. Go look up circular golden ratio proportions, and it is 135, 87.5 degrees or something like that. It's or 137 and a half and 137 and a half and then 87 degrees. And that is the phi breakup, the phi ratio breakup of the circle. And I'm just noticing these 3 points, and it's got the protractor in the center. So one side says 50, the other side says 30. So I'm like 50 plus 30 is 80. So I'm like, okay, the degrees between those 2 points at the top, it's got to be close to 87, 87 and a half, and the other two would have to be 130. And so basically the stand that this gyroscope is sitting on is divided into the golden ratio of the circle. And I don't know if that's deliberate on purpose for uses of the gyroscope and the spinning and sort of the motion that it creates inside of it or whatever. But to me, that just really stands out. And I wonder if you've ever thought about that, or if you know anything about that. Does it make
No,
sense?
that's a great observation. I'm going to have to think about that a little bit now.
It kind of seems like it has something to do with how the tripod can be balanced.
Yeah, it's okay. If you guys ever watch something silly, what's that movie? The Back to the Future movie, the flux capacitor. Okay, remember when he opens the
Yeah.
flux
Yes.
capacitor and it's got that Y shape? That
Mhm.
is divided, that Y is the golden ratio breakup for a circle. It's like 87 and a half, 137, 137, or 135, 135, whatever it is. It all adds up to 360. So maybe the 137 and a half has the half degree, and then it's like 87. I'm butchering it. But the stand that the gyroscope is on right here is showing me that. And I'm wondering if they're using that in particular because the gyroscope balances itself the best on that sort of tripod stance right there. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah,
not equal.
yeah.
It's not equal 3 points. It's divided specifically in the golden ratio. And I don't mean to sidetrack all that stuff, but
No,
it
No,
is.
this is great. This is
wild,
really,
yeah.
really good.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, there must be a reason for it.
There would be, because otherwise, again, if it was equal, it would be right underneath the screw, and you can see where it terminates is not directly, and
Right. It's
Right.
not 360 divided by 3.
and the fact that they set up on the other, okay. It almost looked like they had this one set up to like the angles you said on another picture of it. It almost looked like it was on the 87, but not on this picture. Never mind.
But I'm talking about those 3 legs with the black
Exactly.
grommet on them. I just
The
found that
stand,
interesting.
the stand, which again, you hold it
Yeah.
outside of it, it shouldn't make a difference, but they have it right there in front of you there. And I imagine it would add stability, somebody building the tripods.
But one thing I know about these gyroscopes is when you spin them up really high, they begin to create their own field, their own toroidal field around them. And the toroidal field, if you look at it from the top down, does also follow that golden ratio. There'll be certain points that show up in the flux lines. If you were to view it through like some sort of viewer that showed you the flux lines, that golden ratio does show up in the circular form as well. I just want to point that out. It might not mean anything to like most of the lay people around here who are watching it, but I think on a technical level, when you're talking about maybe what's the word I'm looking for? Calibrating these gyroscopes, or perhaps putting them on a stand in which the motion of the gyroscope is the least impeded.
Getting, the most cohesion or coherence out of it, the best function.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what
That's
he's
it.
showing here on screen, he has it spinning right now. And what is it? Every 15 minutes or every hour it should process 15. Is that how it goes? 15 degrees? Depending on your latitude, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I think he does it for about 6 minutes or so, something like that. 4, 5, 6, yeah, like 6.5 minutes. But it should have moved a little bit from where it is, from where it started, if the Earth were spinning underneath it. Now, I couldn't find the video. Do you guys remember who did the one? I know John Savage did one. He was another person that, what's going on? There it is.
It was Tesla's Apple.
Was it Tesla's Apple?
Hmm.
Yeah, he put it on a
Hmm.
what are they called though?
A turntable or
A
a
turntable. Yeah, it would spin on a timer.
hmm.
And it wasn't only 20, like a 24-hour rotation. He did a 7-day rotation and showed that the gyroscope was accurate and precise enough, not just to measure a single day rotation, but one that spun only once every 7 days. And it measured the precision perfectly. To just show that, yes, every gyroscope on Earth should be processing at all times if the Earth is moving.
I have a question. So
Yes.
he's demonstrating right here clearly that the spin is going to maintain. It's going to maintain in that plane, right? Its rigidity in space, as it says on Wikipedia, right? And obviously, no matter where he moves the brackets, right, the wheel is constantly spinning the same. And the reason why they say that is because of angular momentum, correct? Okay. So if it is true that this is spinning due to angular momentum, and we can presuppose gravity if we want, just to hammer the point home, it doesn't really matter. If the fact is that it's seemingly defying gravity, right? And I've just heard Globers claim that, well, it maintains it based on the center of gravity, but this is clearly maintaining its rigidity in space regardless of the gravity. They're spinning the bracket any which way. So I just don't know how they reconcile that.
Yeah, I've never really heard a good, rebuttal for why the gyroscope does what it does. In that video we showed of Cami and I's presentation, that astronomy from 1927, the astronomy whatever journal, those were people claiming that, hey, the gyroscope is not processing. And you saying bearing friction and just moving on isn't enough for, people who really want to know this stuff and are trying it out. They're like, if you can't say bearing friction and just move along. Have you ever even done it? Have you ever even looked at it? It was pretty much what the guy was saying. So this isn't anything new. This whole idea that we can't get a mechanical gyroscope to process with the rotation of Earth. It's not like it used to do it. Now all of a sudden it doesn't do it because our engineering has gotten worse or this or that. They've been, at least since the 1920s, they've been wondering, why doesn't the gyroscope process like it's supposed to? You keep on saying it's bearing friction or this or that, but that's not cutting the mustard here. So yeah, it's that's why it was such a killer when I learned about it. But no, I've never heard. Have you guys heard of a good rebuttal besides bearing friction? And it's a toy. I've heard that so many times. Oh, it's just a toy.
That's when I normally hear. Yeah, just a toy.
You
They
just
say it's just a toy, and again, but the more precise you get with the toy, the less it picks it up, and the more of a toy you have, the more easier it is to get it to progress and process and do that. I did notice that when we were doing the experiments with the big gyro, and we were looking at the readings and that was part of the issues on it is on it that they took a slice, they did a precision larger gyro, and to pick up the Earth's motion and be like the first people with the big gyro to detect the Earth's motion, they were running it frontwards, backwards, and at all different speeds, and then picking out the slots of time where it matched in the directions and time exactly where it would match the Earth times, and only using those. In other words, they're throwing out all of the data of it going faster, slower, and everything between. They'd pick out little 30-second increments in that would match up and say, this is proof. And it's like, but No, it's not proof. It's a different rate when you spin it at different speeds. It's different when you spin it frontwards to backwards. It's different. You have all of these variables happening, and you can't just take out this little slice and normalize it and say that this matches Earth rotation. And that was the closest one I saw to anything matching Earth rotation.
That cherry picking.
Oh, beyond cherry picking. You should have the way it was presented, and when you actually went to the data that they were presenting the data from, it's like, well, yeah, you are the first person to pick up the Earth spin using a mechanical gyro because you did hours and hours and hours of data, and you went through and you sifted through and picked out what 15 seconds or 30 seconds that matched in different things that got where you got your results when nothing around it was. So yeah, it was crazy.
Did you see
But
that comment by Dirty D there?
no,
In motocross riders, when they're jumping, I've always wondered how they did this. They would jump up in the air and their back tire would go way up in the air, and then all of a sudden right before they hit, it would somehow just zoom. And these bikes are big and heavy, and you're just, you're a human on there. And I always wonder, how do they get this thing to go back down? And he says that they use more spin of the wheel to give it down pull, but stop it to let it float up. So when they jump up in the air, they hit their back brake and they let their tire, and then when they want to pull down, they gun it on the gas and it pulls I always wondered, that always threw me off. It's like, how did they do that?
It makes perfect sense when you think about it, because the air, it has tangible properties, right? So it's almost like you're riding on the air.
I had never thought about the gyroscopic effect on a motorcycle wheel before. That's a whole new concept to me. I'm like, whoa, yeah. Like trying to think about like motocross and them actually using the gyroscope effect in doing their stunts. I'm like, whoa, yeah, I can totally see it now. But yeah, that's really fascinating.
Yeah, right here. This is John Savage. Just moving. He did a bunch of observations too as well. This is how I had first heard about John. Was his gyroscope tests that were shared on GLOBEBUSTERS. Yeah, another really. He doesn't make many videos anymore. But yeah, he's been around for a while. Let's see what his oldest video was. The gyroscope 7 years ago. Yep. So that was the first thing he started playing with, was the gyroscope. Yeah, same. I mean, a lot of us have done this. I never even recorded mine because there were already so many out there. No, this is John Savage.
Well, this is troubling for them.
Yeah, I mean, what do you
That's why a
say?
lot of people quit. Like, they just don't even go any further. Because if you understand how the gyroscope works and then you test it like this, you're like, yeah, things aren't what they told us. I mean, it's just pretty obvious. You don't even need these crazy experiments like Michelson-Morley and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah, that's overboard, way overboard.
way overboard.
It really nailed it down, but it was unnecessary. I
Now,
mean, after Aries' failure, you really didn't need to do much.
they just wanted to do it, man. They just wanted to have a little disco.
It's just like one of those things. It's like, wait, are you sure? Well, let's just do it again.
Let's
But
do it
really,
1,000 more times.
yeah, exactly. Oh, you mean we have to be responsible for our actions? Oh, darn.
Now, this is actually a devious fake that we're looking at, guys. Make no mistake about it, because what they've done is they've actually put the paper with the nicks on it on a turntable that turns about 15 degrees per hour.
Oh, yeah, John, he did some great work back in the day for sure. Now, does he have anything on the fiber optic here? I wish we still had the videos back up on GLOBEBUSTERS.
Can I just give a side note? shout
Yeah.
out to Rob Durham because back in the day when we had the FE Core chat going, there's FE Core logo. We were discussing the selenium eclipse, the selenium eclipse, right? This is a big thing. A lot of flat earthers think
Selenelian.
the selenium eclipse debunks the globe. However, it does not. But it's funny, and Rob Durham is the guy who basically verified my findings. Nobody in FE Core believed me. They were like, "What?
Yeah,
No."
right.
And I was like, "No, seriously. Through line of sight, if you line everything up to scale in AutoCAD, the line of sight shadows work. However, here's the tricky part. Here's where their stuff falls apart. They publicly tell you that the selenium eclipse can only be seen because of refraction. However, in AutoCAD, in the program in which I modeled this line of sight only,
No refraction.
there is no refraction. There is no atmosphere. So even in their model, it doesn't work. It's just a big nothing burger. It's a big question mark. But it's funny because people try to use it. It's just one of those things. But here's the great part about it is there are this happened years ago when I debunked this. There are no globies smart enough to bring this up in an argument. They never want to, create the models in AutoCAD. They never want to do anything because the same model that I use to show that the selenium eclipse does not debunk the globe is the same model in which I can show that the globe is not real because of the curvature not being there, right? The visual curvature. Like we use these models in AutoCAD to debunk their curvature models all the time because there's just no curve there. It just doesn't work. So, it's just one of those things where it just goes to show, like, if you really do the due diligence and you go and try to investigate these things, don't worry about it. You're going to find the truth. And so far, to date, nothing has come back that proves the globe. It's either been a nothing burger or it proves the earth is flat.
Yep. Yeah, that's why we're still here.
I want you to
Precisely.
say that again. Selenium or what's the
Selenium or selenium. It's
Selenium.
it's the lunar eclipse that is
Oh, I know what
supposed.
it is.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is
3
a tongue
times.
twister.
Yeah, that's one that kind of blew me away when
Yeah.
I first had heard about it. And it's not like this was something new that started, I mean, they've had these, 50 some odd ones have been recorded from, or
Yeah.
at least written down by the Royal Observatory going
Mhm.
back in time. So what Rob's showing here is that these super precision gyroscopes that everybody calls a toy are not much different than the actual gyroscopes that are inside of all these devices. You would think that, this is going to be an airplane. We need a really big wheel spinning, right? No. And they make them small for multiple reasons, but the reason I think it is the most is because getting that metal to be perfectly weighted is not an easy task to do. And the bigger it is, the harder it would be to do that. Remember how much problem Stefan had trying to get his?
Yeah, and it never did get
It
dialed in
never did.
completely.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to do. I think the bigger the wheel, the harder it is to get it balanced perfectly.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why they use a smaller
And
wheel like that.
what would you gain by having it bigger? You would have it more compact. You'd have a tighter rim velocity and everything's on a smaller version. I don't know what you would gain by making it bigger, except for, again, you're putting a lot of physics into action that it's going to, with the rim velocity, and that it's getting to be kind of dangerous in ways. You get a big wheel and flying apart even with the mechanics and that around it. I don't know what you would gain by making it bigger other than the bigger is better in Boy World, or the more power.
More power.
More power, yeah.
So we've been pretty much stuck on the mechanical gyro so far. Now, like your phone, most of them do nowadays, will have a gyroscope inside of it, an accelerometer, something that's going to measure, which angle it's at, this or that. They're teeny tiny now. They're like the size of a grain of rice.
I thought they just programmed down in the phones.
Yeah. Oh, if it were only that easy. But yeah, and even these don't measure, like when you put them on a plane and go flying. I know Chris Van Matre did this one. He set it there and, from where he started, and he would show you that when he turns it, it shows an angle deflection. So then he went on the plane and flew over and showed the whole time that it never changed its angle. But when he picked it up and turned it, it did. And people would say, "Oh, that's because of gravity. It's measuring gravity." And it's like, no. This is not.
So there's no gravity unless Chris touches the phone?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are you talking about?
No.
No, it doesn't work that way.
It should be ever present. That's the whole thing.
Yes. It's not
I
like
think-
an on-off switch you can hit. It's always there.
I think some of the confusion with gyroscopes is things that we call gyroscopes. We call, as we know, that children's toy with the string on it that you'd pull the string. We call that a gyroscope. And the little mechanical and the fancy ones, we're doing the precision ones that you attach and run off of the motors. And then when you get into airplanes and everything, we're talking about fiber optic gyros, which are known as FOGs, and ring laser gyros.
Mm-hmm.
And these ones are a different ball game. Before, what we're doing is we're spinning metals and we're gauging reactions and seeing how they hold the rigidity in space there. But when we get into your fog, your fiber optic, and your ring laser, you're doing something very, very different is what I've pondered over. You're measuring light. You're measuring what the light is doing or what the ether, in other words, not what the ground is. It's definitely measuring light. It's not measuring the ground. It's a fiber optic gyro. It's an optic. It's measuring what the optics are, not what the ground. It's not a motion detector. So I think a lot of the times we get caught up in these concepts and we go back and forth and say that these are doing the same things, but they're really not. They couldn't be. If you stop and ponder over it, you're measuring again what light is doing and how light is doing it, and then you're putting spinning a child's toy or spinning things, and you're seeing how it's holding and not being affected by things that would normally affect it. It's holding its rigidity in space.
Yep.
I personally think I don't know on you guys, but I'm going to throw some ideas out there. I'm pondering just why not, but I think with the fog and the ring laser and that we are measuring the rotation. You can call it ether rotation or light rotation. And I think we will, and again, as we move around, you're not going to get it like it would work on a globe because we're not on a globe. So you're going to have, like you're talking, these discrepancies, Zach, but you are going to show a reaction. Something is there. As far as the spinning toys or the mechanical gyros, I often wonder, again, when we talk about the dielectrics or electrostatics, again, the way that the energy is, the way I understand it is more, instead of a force, I follow the right-hand rule where it's almost like, again, no work is required in that direction. I almost wish I had that visual up, Zach, where you're showing like the, again on that thing where no work is required on that axis,
yeah.
right?
Okay. You have your flat Earth. Okay. So we have our flat Earth right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sitting there. If you take your thumb and point it down at the center and then curl your fingers around,
We have the right hand rule.
the electric field is going to flow the direction of your thumb, and the ether, or whatever you want to call it, the magnetic field, the flux, is going to go around like this, just the exact way that the stars move overhead. So The Earth itself shows the right-hand rule in it. We have our electric field coming down from the top, going to the surface, and then even the field that we measure, this, whatever you want to call it, they'll call it drift. Fiber optic gyro, 15 degrees per hour. Thanks, Bob. Right? How many
Thanks,
times
Bob.
have we heard that? Hundreds of times.
And I say thank
What-
you, Bob. It's so fascinating.
What they didn't say was thanks, Bob, for doing the test with Cammie, myself, and Chris. We went up to Pikes Peak at over 14,000 feet elevation and measured the fiber optic gyro. How long was that over, Cammie? Like an hour? Something
A
like
little
that?
bit over an hour, yeah.
And then we put it on the ground, the actual ground. We couldn't put it in the vehicle because a little gust of wind would come by. And that fiber optic gyro is so sensitive, it would measure that. Little tiny, you wouldn't see it move, you wouldn't feel it move, but that fiber optic gyro knew that that car moved a little bit. So we had this thing on the ground up there. And then Chris took it to under 4,000 feet elevation, just east of there on the same latitude. Now, the way the precession works, the gyroscopic precession, it depends on your latitude on the ball Earth, they say, right? So if you're on the equator, it's going to precess 15 degrees per hour. But if you're up to, or it's going to precess so fast. And then if you go to like 600 or like 45 degrees north, it's going to precess a different amount because of its position on the ball. But it's still supposed to be 15 degrees per hour. Did I have that right?
Yeah, no, your degrees
Doesn't it
would change.
precess different at different latitudes?
Well, you have to set it by your latitudes, they say, in order to navigate. They make it as convoluted and confusing as possible.
I'm almost getting this and Coriolis mixed up, I think.
I
They
think
say
you
you
are.
have to set it by your latitude, but why?
But why?
Yeah, if it's
It
15
should.
degrees per hour,
But
it
they'll
should
tell
be
you it's
15
because of
degrees
the
per
Earth
hour.
spin. But is it? They'll say, oh, it's because the Earth is spinning. But is it because the Earth is spinning or because the sun is moving?
Yeah. But yeah, and we got a 2-degree difference. Almost, what was it, 1.8 degree difference? Now we're on the same latitude. We just changed the elevation by 10,000 feet. Now that should not have happened if we were on the spinning ball. That shouldn't have changed the amount of rotation just by changing your elevation. It still should have spun and precessed the exact same amount, but it didn't. And that was
In degrees.
huge.
Again,
And
you're
nobody
measuring in
ever
degrees.
mentions that part about it. When they say thanks, Bob, they have no clue that really, yeah, it's the flat earthers that should be saying thanks, Bob. Because yeah, this blew my mind when he came up with that idea to go different latitudes like that or different elevations, and it actually showed that much of a difference. I wasn't expecting that much of a difference. Maybe, a quarter of a degree or half a degree at most, but almost 2-degree difference.
That's a big difference.
That's huge.
That is a big difference. I
Yeah,
don't think people realize, and that's kind of like one of the things you can only get by doing these kind of observations to realize like how much, when you're talking about the degree and difference, depending on what it is you're observing, it makes a difference.
Your
Yeah.
hands-on, you're touching, and you're doing it. It makes a difference. The actual, again, watching us and listening to us as opposed to actually doing it and understanding and feeling it, feeling the gyroscope.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. What I was going to before we went off of there and the things is that I was wondering on the mechanical, just running by thoughts on you guys, is what are your thoughts on like when spinning it? This is just throwing out, pondering, but the vortex and the motions we're talking about and everything, your para and your dia and your electrostatics going down with it. It's raining down. What about if spinning something, not only is it creating a vortex, but it's taking it out of alignment with like the energy raining down where there's no work required. Spinning it is somehow messing up the alignment, the particle alignment, if you wanted to call it particle. That's the wrong word, but do you understand like the visual I'm getting? That it seems that whenever we rotate something quickly, it's more than the vortex and the airflow created it. Again, a child's toy spinning atop, it defies gravity in a way. And could some of that be, again, like when you throw a football or something like that, you can say it's maybe the vortex created and do it to that. But with a gyroscope or a spinning topper, that could it be like some of the alignment, like the diastatics or electrostatics raining down and that, like losing connection? When you see raining down, like the energy raining down, if you're not hitting the connection, if it's only hitting every missing connections, there could be some precession and some loss to it. It wouldn't be an exact thing, and it would depend on how fast it's spinning and the different variables that you put into it, and of course your friction and that. But could it be any thoughts of, again, just it being
Are
spun
you
out of
talking about
alignment?
going against the downward vector?
Right, I'm talking about with the downward vector, there's no work required on it, and that's what we read as gravity, right? So there's no work required. Well, what about if when you're spinning something, you're taking it out of alignment with that grid in a way? In other words, it's spinning so fast it can't touch the alignment, or where all of a sudden work is required to pull it down. I know
Yeah,
I'm talking with my
yeah, no,
fingers,
I've
and that
had that. I've
explain
had
it.
that thought
Explain it
before
better.
too. Well, oh, I forget the gentleman's name who did all of the
Eric
testing.
Lakeway.
He was the one who spun balls up to like 15,000 RPM, 30,000 RPMs.
Eric
And
Lathwaite.
yeah, and he found that they almost
Mhm.
like slowly fell to the ground, like they were hovering almost.
Exactly, like it would
Mhm.
only hit it in some. Almost it felt almost like the Lenz's law with the again, where you have that resistance. Lenz's law, you have it creating its own field and vortex going up against it. But again, with the gyroscope and that, I think that there's more. I think it could be just missing out. If you think about it raining and it's spinning again, it's not making the connections to pull it down. And yeah, it's Lathwaite's work that fascinates me the most in this. It's just an off-topic thing to go with mechanical gyros because I don't know, again, how you would test your thinking on it, but it was just, again, I ponder on these things and how they work, and the fact that they stay up, or things again stay up and become weightless. I don't know, at the beginning of our How the World Works video where we were showing it, you saw a child, an 8-year-old child, holding a heavy weight that was spinning, and they were rotating him around.
We didn't get to that part of it.
Or we
I
didn't
was
get
gonna
that.
Yeah,
say,
that was
have
in
you
there.
guys ever looked at like the levitating gyros?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Sandy, what's his name? Oh, I can't remember, but it's a dude in like the 60s or 70s where he's building these gyroscopes and he'd spin them up and they would naturally start levitating on their own. They would just start defying gravity.
Which one of these? Imperial College London.
It kind of gets me
Yeah,
curious
the
about the whole
Imperial
electrostatics angle of
right
it
there,
all.
right there. He's doing it, but he might do it with the thing right there, the one you have your finger on. Yeah.
Did you mention that this has something to do with like magnetism or something like that earlier?
Well, electromagnetism and that, and again, if you put
The
the whole
spin
dynamics of
does.
it together, the spin does. Yeah.
So as it spins, it creates its own magnetic field, and that affects the rate of fall.
Well, it's creating its own magnetic field and vortex, but it's more or less taking it, I think, out of alignment with the like natural raining down of the straight lines created. Again, your 90-degree angle created by your dielectric and your dielectrostatics. Your thing's running in your 90-degree direction. Again, if you spin something, you're going to pull it out of that field. It's not going to be able to recognize it as much in
Yeah,
my
that's a
mind.
big heavy weight,
That's a
Kyle.
big.
He wouldn't be able to do this normally. Like,
Yeah, I've
Watch
seen
this.
this before.
and now if he goes in the opposite direction, it would go down more. But as he processes this around, he's going to be able to lift it up over his head with one hand.
And they'll have a child do it too. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, this one didn't show the child, but yeah, this is, I was looking for that one. He's going to do it a couple more times. But yeah, there's something weird about
It's not quite
spinning things
levitating,
that
but it is like changing how heavy it feels.
It definitely changes how heavy something feels when it's
Mhm.
spinning. You can, for sure, it.
Yeah, I know Ken
Wow.
Wheeler talks about this. He doesn't have the apparatus that he wants to use, Yeah, the anti-gravity wheel. Veritasium. No, we better
Have you
not.
ever heard, Zach, of Sandy Kidd? Sandy Kidd and the levitating gyroscope?
No.
Okay. Sandy Kidd, that's one I watched a while back. I'm gonna put it in the chat. But he would build these gyroscopes and like now I'm searching on YouTube and I used to be able to search Sandy Kidd levitating gyroscope and on like all the 1, 2, 3 parts would show up and now it's not showing up so much. Not really surprised. But there was a man named Sandy Kidd who spent all his time in his garage working with gyroscopes and he figured out how to make this gyroscope machine where he would spin it up and it would just start lifting up on its own to where he had to put a topper on it so that it wouldn't fly off the stand that he had. And it was like very reminiscent, like, you know, not trying to push any sort of UFO stuff, but it just goes to show that they take things that are real in the real world and they use the truths to push their lies, right? So they have, you know, the UFOs where the UFOs are spinning and they float and they're anti-gravitic and all this stuff, and they make it seem like some sort of alien technology, but it's not. It's really just how our realm works.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna play this. Here's the one with the child. And I want to hear what he says here.
Torg just trying to lift that up. It's just a little kid. It's not gonna happen. This guy just holds it like a feather soon.
Right. Now, we're going to give this to Dennis, and we've spun it up to about 2,000 revs a minute. And he's going to
That's
show
not
you
that
his
fast.
feats of strength.
I think it's 800 revolutions per minute you need to get the gyroscopic effect to
Also,
start
no, I
happening.
noticed these guys are not wearing face masks or goggles or anything. I couldn't have done this in university when I was there without all million safety gear because this is just ridiculous. Because if this anything happens, it spins, it can
Yeah, we had lawn darts.
cause a lot of
back then,
mayhem.
man.
Anyways,
Come on. Look at this. He looks terrified.
This is back when we used to paint our houses with lead paint.
Yeah.
Let's strap him in. Jeez. Yeah, I'd be terrified too.
Nice and easy first, Dennis. There you go. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Get your hands further back, Dennis. You got it. Your hands further back. Pull your hands in.
he's lifting it like a
Look at
lollipop.
his face. He's like, holy shit.
What is happening
I
here?
can make him lower it.
Slow it down.
Raise it.
All by him
How is
spinning
he
it.
rotating it then? But it has no angular momentum. It's as if it's moving the mass into wherever it's connected. It's as if you all become the mass or something. Also, I just had that thought right now. It's actually it might be interesting stuff like that.
It might need something to push off of. Like it needs something to
Arms out, Dennis.
ground against. There was an observation I was looking at just a bit ago where they were doing experiments, dropping the gyros. And one thing they noticed is that when they were processing, they would always immediately stop processing as soon as they removed the platform. So when they drop, they hold perfect rigidity. They stop processing.
Well done, Dennis. Yeah, Eric Lathwaite. Go check out all his stuff on magnetism. The Magnetic River is an amazing. I think I saw it.
Yes,
actually
a
up here.
magnetic river is a great one. I remember watching that a few years ago. Like that's a great one. If you
Is it
you know
kind of
all
like-
these videos,
Right
if you
here.
want to
Yeah.
understand magnetism or get a better understanding of magnetism, these are all great videos.
Magnetic river kind of sounds like the vortex underwater. Is it kind of the same concept?
No, it's totally different. Basically, the magnetic river is basically aligning magnets in such a formation that they just keep going straight. It's like basically how like these mag trains work or like light rails and stuff. They align these magnets in a way that propels the train in a certain direction. And that's the magnetic river. Like when you take magnets, you can put them in different formations which produce a different flow, right? So the
Exactly.
the magnetic river is producing a flow that goes in one direction to propel the train in that direction.
So again, yeah, working magnets in series or magnetics in series is not the same as a single magnet and I have reason, to believe that our realm again shows a little bit more complexity. If you look at the patterns in that is more in series than a simple thing. But again, some of the properties that you can get within series are, like she said, propulsion, frictionless. You can get to different things like that. I'll let you keep on going, Zach, and I'm off topic with it a little bit, but yeah.
Well, I was just gonna, since we brought up the magnetic effect with a gyroscope, I was just gonna show this since we were kind of touching on magnetism. This is the end of that video we started with Cami and I jumped over the magnetism part that was just talking about magnetism. Now we're going to show, it's really interesting. The gyroscope actually pushes a magnet away when it's spinning. It's kind of like Lenz's law when you drop it down a copper tube or a brass tube. The magnet kind of moves like it's almost going through a syrup. It doesn't just fall on its own free will, I guess, but it almost has an interaction without touching the tube, but it's still interacting with the tube. They call it Lenz's law. But yeah, it's really neat. It doesn't do it when the gyroscope isn't spinning. It is actually attracted to the magnet. I believe it's the bearings, the stainless steel ball bearings inside of there that are attracting it. But the yeah, check this out. This is neat. Shout out to Conspiracy Music
We
Guru.
will now look at an option made while applying a magnetic field to a super precision gyroscope at rest, compared to one in motion at different speeds. When we hold a magnet near the motionless gyroscope, you can see there is a slight attraction only when one of the poles of a strong magnet is facing it. This is unusual as brass and aluminum aren't magnetic in nature. The strangest thing is that once spinning at high speeds, the magnet will repulse or push the gyroscope away. This can be attributed to Lenz's law and shown in this quick demonstration. The magnet's descent is slowed as it passes through the brass pipe due to a current being created in the brass. This current then produces its own magnetic field, which interacts with the magnets. The question is, could these fiber optic and ring laser gyros be picking up the movement of the ever-changing magnetic field?
That's wild.
And still a really good question, because I think there are different parts of the field and different properties of it. Again, it's everything working together.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, I'm sitting here talking to myself. Yeah, that is awesome. Look how far out that extends.
Yeah.
Look at this. Again, the perfect toroid fields and your vortex is going.
We're such nerds.
We are nerds.
Now, just so you know how nerdy we are, when you went back there and you heard him say, when we apply a magnet to a gyro, that was Zach's hands applying a magnet to a gyro, and I was right there with the little camera, the little cell phone thing, and we were doing that. So when we say when we do this, we try it.
Here's one of them. The gimbal friction test, raw and edited, 2 hours, 15 minutes long. So it should process, he'll tell you here, the original 6-hour gyro is linked in the description below. Is to test if the friction in the main bearing of my gyroscope gimbal would be strong enough to overcome blah, blah, blah. Love your testing. If you build a turntable that turns and puts it in your gyro, you could prove that it is sensitive enough. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this is the problem. You need a much more sensitive device. Okay, so he's like, oh, okay, let's see. Owner stated publicly it was not sensitive enough. So yeah, he got a hold of them. Here's what they had to say. Thank you for actually taking the time to approach. Okay, he just gives a thing. Okay, ad hominem attacks. Yeah, this was back in the day when we had lots of interactions with trolls. 24-hour clock mechanism where the hour hand shaft rotated 360 degrees in 24 hours, same as the proposed spin of the Earth. I attached a platform to this hour hand shaft and placed the gyroscope on top of the platform. And there's his setup. Yeah, he really dove in with this. And then they did a 7-day one. This is a 24-hour one. Rotate with a 15 degree per hour platform. Should the gyroscope be sensitive enough to register the rotation, then we would see the gimbal move with the platform. Over 2 hours, you may want to turn your volume down.
You've got to have an extreme gyroscope to keep it going for 7 days. That's pretty good.
Well, yeah, they have these motors that hook up to them.
Uh-huh.
7 days, though, I mean, it would run out of battery before that. You would have to have it plugged into a wall for that to work. Even running it for hours, these things run out of battery pretty quick. Okay, this is the whole 2.5 hour. Let's see where it starts. Well, let's see, we can read 80 something there. We'll just jump ahead. Oh, looks like it processed a little bit, maybe. Or is the whole thing moving? Yeah, I think the whole thing is moving. And the wheels are moving. It's because of this vibrating. The whole platform itself is moving here. Oh, it's because it's rotating it. Dirt. Give me like 21 hour, 35 years. Yeah, he goes through all the math and everything. But yeah, I mean, we've had people that have put in all the time. We've had people do test after test after test, make all these different observations, and we keep coming to the same conclusion. Everyone does. That it's not spinning. Nothing's moving underneath our feet. The ground is stationary. It's firm.
I remember watching all these gyroscope videos years ago.
Yeah.
They're not fun.
No, it's boring.
It is so boring, but you know what? If you really want to, test the knowledge and test the earth and stuff, these are great. They're great videos to watch. They're boring. It's just data.
Yeah.
Most of what this is just data. It's not exciting. What is exciting is the realization you get after you look at all the boring data.
Yes.
And you realize that back 8 years ago, it's like, I'm not crazy. Look at the data.
Mm-hmm. And then also too, when you look at this boring data that is just mind-numbingly boring, I have to admit, it's just not fun. But when you look at it and you understand it and you understand what it's telling you, nobody can tell you any different. Nobody's going to convince you of any different or convince you that, oh, you psyched yourself out. You don't really believe. You're just, no. You're going to know.
That's what separates you from the trolls is they haven't looked at the data. You have.
Seriously, it is a knowing. After you spend the time and the pain and the boringness of looking at this stuff to really understand it and know the answer, then nobody can tell you any different, and it doesn't matter because you've gone through the pain of learning the truth.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for our gyroscope discussion. Really, I mean, if you want to learn a lot more about this topic and dive in, go check out Eric Laithwaite. I would maybe check out his stuff first. I know because Rob and John both go back to a lot of his stuff. So this would be a good place to start. Professor Eric Lathwaite. Great demonstrations and just a very strong foundation. His comprehension of all this stuff. He kind of reminds me of a Walter Lewin type. He doesn't go up there and just name off a bunch of equations and this and that and say big words so you don't have any clue what he's talking about. He teaches as though every student is a child. He tries to break it down so people can get it. And I love that about these certain types of teachers. They just know how to speak because they actually comprehend it.
When they can describe things in a simple manner that really shows the level of understanding of the concept that they have.
Yes. Yeah. And then Rob Durham. If you want to get into flat earth gyroscope stuff, he is my go-to guy for anything gyroscope. He's put in the time. He's got a bunch of great videos on it, not just one. And really, he's one of those people that actually went out there and did it and tested it, and not just once, but over and over with multiple different devices, and came to the conclusion they all say the same thing. I mean, he went and took parts out of planes and attached them to his dashboard and went driving around town.
Everywhere.
Yeah, even different types of gyroscopes. Like, that's why I was so happy when he modeled the Selenion eclipse and he verified my data. I was like, yes. I'm not full of it.
Yes.
No, his.
Yeah, when Rob verifies something, then you can know that it's pretty verified after that. Yeah. But yeah, Rob Durham, and then John
Savage
did a lot of it. He's got a lot of his unedited, 6 hours long. I mean, he did the work, a lot of it himself.
And I watched him. Oh.
Yeah.
We should just start. We should just make a 24-hour live stream of a gyroscope not processing.
Oh, we could do that. That'd be hysterical. So
we've done that though.
We've done it though.
We have done these things. Like
we've had live hangouts.
Seriously, when you could just go into Google Hangouts and just press go live and just be live indefinitely, we did this stuff. And there'd be like 12 people watching. And we were like, that's it!
It's not moving. It's not
like seriously, we did this. But it should be done again and again and again and again and again.
It's just
drive that shit home.
We're always talking to new audiences, and we gotta include them.
No, I just think it's funny because they always point at like BS stuff. Like, look at this 24/7 stream of the ISS. And it's like, and when they bring up the gyroscope, it's like, well, we have a 24-hour stream of the gyroscope. Not
yeah.
So again, one last time. Well, does anybody else have anything they'd like to say about the gyroscope? Anything at all? I'll just throw it out there one more time. Any final
observe these things?
Yeah, just study it. Go do a deep dive on the gyroscope. It's a great. It's a very good validation that you're not crazy.
And if you'd like to, go ahead, Skylar.
Sorry, jeez Louise. They also, just in case anybody's curious, even in Narnia, they claim that the gyroscopes hold their rigidity in space, right? So they have it on the ISS, and they apparently use them out on distant spacecraft, far away from things that have gravity. So obviously, they're not reliant on gravity to maintain their plane, right? And if that's the case, then that means the gyroscopes debunk the globe. Case closed.
Well said.
I would have to say, jumping in as far as gyroscopes, even if you don't go out and get yourself a precision gyroscope, take a fidget spinner, a coin, do a little child's top, play a little bit more like a child and watch things when you spin it. Pick up again what centrifugal motion is, the vortex created. And again, watch how you can like spin a top. The cutest, you can get a package of them for 99 cents on Amazon or whatever, the little child's plastic ones. But revisit and rethink and stop and look at it. I know I have some Celts here, or they call them rattlebacks, also something fun to spin. Those ones you spin, they come back at you. Again, spin some things. You have a fidget spinner, Tribune. That's good. Do you guys remember this story when they were worried that too many people spinning their fidget spinners at one time was going to knock the Earth
Throw
out
the
of
wobble
rotation?
out. Yep. I
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up.
What?
Sorry, I
Yes.
couldn't resist.
It's
An
too
actual
funny.
physicist got this
Oh, for
published.
sure.
A
They should be more
physicist got that
It's
published.
true.
Yeah, because the land masses aren't equal, so there's all the people on the land, and they're all on the land spinning the fidget spinners, and Earth's going, whoa.
Now think about all of the ceiling
Oh my
fans
goodness.
on Earth.
Yeah.
All the ceiling fans.
They're already doing this. All the motors everywhere spinning.
Yeah.
Wheels on the bus, they go round and round.
Do you still have a link to that? Because that's like one of those ones that we just gotta
Oh.
make fun of forever.
Let me
Oh,
see
yeah.
if I
We-
can,
Apparently,
I'm sure we
already
could find
a
it.
Gyroscope. And again, didn't we just wobble like 31 degrees or 31 inches? Like, what the frick? They can't get the story straight.
Oh man. Yeah, they tried to say that the wobble was thrown off by like half an inch or something. It's like, whoa, if you extend that little half an inch out to like the farthest star, you're talking like major differences here. Like if the Earth was really thrown off that much, the North Star would no longer be in the center. None of the stars would be in the same place that they are, because that is how much your position in the universe matters. That's why everything in astrology is observer based. That's why you have to type in your location and your time, because everything is observer based. So if you change the position of the observer by just a little bit, everything gets thrown off out of whack.
oh, I can't find it. I'll see if I can't find it. I know I've got it.
Oh, I've got
somewhere.
some.
Does it have to do with the fidget spinner?
Yeah, it's the fidget spinner news. Physicists warns that fidget spinners could affect, and it's not letting me open the University of Maine. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, it's not. It can. It will if the conditions are right.
Oh, no, it's like, what did they do? Just do it. So fidget spinners could have a harmful effect on Earth's rotation. Right.
You know what can have
Oh,
a harmful
man.
effect on Earth's rotation is if all the flat earthers go to Flattoberfest at the same time in October 21st of 22nd in Las Vegas. Let's throw the world off tilt.
Yeah, baby.
Bring your fidget.
Fidget spinners disrupt Earth's gravity. How long would a fidget spinner spin if a fidget spinner was in space? They did fidget spinner spinning in space, YouTube.
And for those of you that are coming to Flattoberfest, if you
Oh,
do
God.
meet me and find me, ask me to feel a gyroscope. I will bring one. I will go up to the room and get it 100 times if I have to. I love handing it to people.
I'm sure we could bring some goodies there for people to play with. We're going to
Yeah.
have lots of stuff. It is
Yeah.
going to be a blast. A blast.
Vegas,
We're going to
baby.
blast off harder than SpaceX.
Now there's no more Twitter. Did you hear about that? It's now X.
It's now X.
Yes.
Good lord.
Sounds
Yeah, except when you go there, it still says tweet or search Twitter or So I don't know what they're doing over there, but whatever.
Like,
They put
you just need to solve the update.
Alrighty. Well.
All right, everybody. Oops.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get rolling. Do you guys feel like saying what you're gonna be doing this week? Don't have to if you don't want to, but if you'd like to, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. But
I will,
Karen B,
because
what do you got coming up?
I just want to say that Karen B channel is down with 2 strikes right now because YouTube decided to start hammering me with strikes for videos that have been on my channel already for literally years. So please go to Unveiling This Realm, which is my backup channel. That is where I'm streaming right now. It's I'm not publishing really any videos there except for maybe some promos, but I mean if you're a regular watcher of my streams and you haven't been seeing alerts from Karen B channel, that's why. So please go to the Unveiling This Realm channel and follow me if you want to watch Strange World live or Coffee Talk Live, or Anti-Religious Scripture Study, which are my three main streams. That's where I'm streaming now, for the time being, and probably until October happens, until the event happens, because the strikes on my channel are in effect until October. That's 3 months. So one more and the channel is completely gone. So I'm pretty much not using Karen B right now. That's how it goes, man. Every year before the events happen, this is what happens. So I would like to just say, go to that channel if you follow Karen B. And also go to flatearthfestivals.com or flattoberfest.com and get information on the event that's coming up. It's going to be a huge event, the biggest flat earth event of the year. It's international. I'm bringing people over from the UK. Amanda Volmer's coming from Canada. We have tons of attendees coming from all over. It is going to be amazing. That's it.
Awesome. Can't wait.
I'll throw my hat in as well, because we're always doing something over on the Troubling Tribune channel. For those of you who do not know, the time waiting for Flattoberfest can seem to drone on. I definitely understand that. And so one of the best ways that you can do, one of the best things you can do to pass the time is, catch one of those fantastic modern day debate, flat earth debates. The only issue is they don't have them nearly often enough. So you know who does? Over here at the Troubling Tribune channel, you can catch the True Earth debate, some of the best and the brightest flat earthers, and some of the greatest and funniest globe non-rebuttals you've ever heard. So definitely go and check that out if you haven't already. And what else? Sunday GLOBEBUSTERS. Check it out. Much love.
Absolutely. Kyle, Cammy, anything?
War drums are pounding. I can hear them. And so, yeah, you got to do what it takes to fight back and everything in positive ways. Yeah. Stand up, share the content that really stands out to you, what inspires you. Stand up, speak up. That's how we make a difference. We're making a difference, and that's why they're taking such active measures against us. I'm just noticing that recently that they've got the little banners. You know how they always have the banners on the videos here underneath us. Oh yeah, Flat Earth is a debunked content, right? Well, it turns out that people are just ignoring those banners. So now they're putting those banners on the thumbnails of our videos, the Flat Earth thumbnails. And I'm like, what? That is ridiculous. Because a lot of our content isn't being shared on YouTube directly anymore, but it's actually being shared on external content. And so, we want to make sure that those things get out there. And so, it's just the measures that they're taking against the Flat Earth just shows how much it's affecting them. They're worried. We're making a difference. And so, the more they fight against it, the more they validate it.
But do you guys ever watch Flat Earth, Eddie Banjo, Japan, Brazil, Kuwait, Australia?
He's everywhere.
Yeah. He's
Love
great for the
Eddie.
Eddie's really good for the flight paths and stuff. Yeah, great.
But he's been doing a lot of videos of people's awakening and them waking up to it. It's like every other day there's a new group of people saying, hey, guess what? The earth is flat. It's just everywhere. He goes to Twitter a lot. Or not Twitter. What's the other one?
TikTok.
He goes to TikTok a lot.
Which is great because I don't have the patience to do it, but good for him for going there and finding that stuff and sharing it with everybody. That's great.
He does. He shares with a lot of people in a lot of different languages in ways that are really easy to understand. Other shout out to Nick at Phuket World, or Phuket Word. He's also just friendly to do this. Shout out to everybody in this chat. Thanks for coming tonight. For those asking, where's Jaron? Jaron and Austin are always on the Sunday shows. This is the Thursday Tech show, so it's a little bit nerdier than the Sunday show, but we're glad that y'all joined us. But they definitely are here with Zach and Troubling Tribune up on the Sunday show, and we're here on the Thursday show.
Yep.
We have Iron Room. Yep.
We're just a slightly different Globebuster crew.
Yeah. And who's Sneeko? Someone in chat put, Sneeko just tweeted the earth is flat. This is finna pop off, bros.
I don't know who
Oh.
Sneeko is.
I don't know who's. I'm old, I guess.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely too old to know who somebody named Sneeko is.
No, that's awesome though. More people with, large followings coming out and saying, "Hey, I think the Earth is flat," is awesome. Thank you. Well done, Sneeko.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
Happening every day.
Find a flat earther near you using the Flat Earth Clock Cat, because these meetups are going everywhere. I'm telling
Yes.
you. Yeah.
Flat
It's
Earth,
so
Sun, Moon,
easy.
and Zodiac
It's
Clock
not
app.
as far away as you think it is.
By Blue Water Bay. Make sure it's by Blue Water Bay. There are other ones, knockoffs, that are
Yes.
nothing like the original. The original has all the bells and whistles, and it's actually cheaper than most of the knockoffs. That's the crazy part. It'll be $2.99 by Blue Water Bay. That is the publisher. Flat Earth,
Meeting
Sun,
other
Moon,
flat
and
earthers in
Zodiac Clock app.
person is meeting other flat earthers in person is like the most amazing experience ever. You're not alone.
Yeah, you can look at your map
Yeah.
and see, hey, there's 20 blue dots within, 20 or 50 kilometers of me. And you can go bloop, bloop,
more.
bloop, and send a message to all of them. Bloop. Yeah, ours is like 200 and something.
It's actually it's actually super accurate too. You can actually zoom in and see right where people are in their bedroom.
Oh yeah.
Well, if they allow their their location to be seen exactly.
That's great stuff. But yeah,
It's
Flat
really
Earth,
good technology.
Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
And
a
also
blue guy.
flatearthfestivals.com, the same website you guys can go to find information about Flattoberfest. There's a little menu tab up there that says Flat Earth Friendly Meetups. And people around the country who organize meetups email me and have me post them on my website and try to get people there. So if you're planning a local meetup for free, it's cool. Email me, email Mark at, my email is karenbfe@protonmail.com or Flat Earth Festivals at protonmail.com, and just give us all your information, the time, the date, the location of your meetup, and a contact information, and we will help get the word out for you so that you can meet other flat earthers in your area, and they are definitely there.
Yes, they are. We're
You're
everywhere.
not alone.
Nothing quite like it. I am also dropping the link for Journalism coming up live in about 20 minutes, so he's usually a few minutes late. But yeah, he's doing part 2 with McTune tonight. I don't know how he does it or why he does it, but I'm glad it's him and not me.
Oh yeah, we got to be there in the comments, supporting, asking some great questions, making sure that Jeremy leaves
Absolutely.
no stone unturned. Right, we have a
Mhm.
chance to get some fantastic concessions. So
Let's
Yes.
do it. Let's
Go
do this
Jared.
now.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of GlobeBusters Tech, covering the gyroscope. Remember, be good to each other. Always be kind. Open your heart, because there's truth inside. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Peace. Earth is flat.